So in this equation, in this problem, we're asked to write an equation of a line that has points at 3, 8, 9, -4. So the equation of the line is this equation here. Y equals mx plus b. And where m is the slope, so this m represents slope, and the b represents the y-intercept. So when I do a problem like this, it's not a bad idea to sketch a quick diagram just to make sure that I have an idea what this graph looks like. So I'm just gonna draw a quick rough diagram. So at 3, 8, 9, -4, maybe something like that. I have a line that goes through those points, okay, and that's what the line looks like. Now the line is characterized by the two parts in the equation, the slope. So when I look at my graph here, I have a slope, which is going to be represented by the slope triangle. I also have a y-intercept. The y-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. When I do these problems, I'm always going to first start with my slope. So my slope is going to be the change in y. So the change in y is going to be based on those two y values. So I have to subtract them. So in this case, I'm going to start with -4, subtract 8, I get -12. Okay, so what that means is I've gone down 12. So as I fill this in, my rise is going to be -12. So I've gone down 12. I still have to find my x. Change in x. Well, since I started with the -4, I have to start with the 9 and subtract 3. So I end up with 9 minus 3, and that's going to be +6. So when I work out this slope, this becomes -12 over +6. That's a negative slope, and it's -2. I can write it as 2 to 1. I'm just going to leave that as 2, -2 like that. And it looks right because it's going down. So at this point, what I figured out is, well, I need to know my slope and y-intercept, but I have figured out my slope. So I'm just going to put that into my equation. It's going to be -2. What I don't have is my y-intercept, or my b. Okay, I don't have the b yet. So I got to still work out the b value. So how do I work out the b value? Well, I'm going to use a principle that is true all the time, not just for coordinate geometry, but for any time you have coordinate pairs like this. The x and y as a pair must fit into the x and y in the equation. So I'm just going to write this over here. I've got my y equals my mx plus my b. And the x and y of the equation, any xy pair like I have here or I have here, must fit into the x and y in the equation. It has to. And this is always true. Okay, that's always going to be true. So, and it doesn't matter which x and y pair I use. They both will work. So I'm just going to arbitrarily choose 3 and 8. And I'm going to replace the x and y with 3 and 8. So y equals 8. That's equal to 2 times x. Well, in this case, I know x is going to be 3 because the 3 and 8 have to go together as a pair. Plus b. And when I've done that, I now have an equation with only one variable, b, and that's what I want to figure out. I need to find the b in my equation. So I can then just calculate b by solving this. I get 8 is equal to 2 times 3 is 6 plus b, subtract 6 from both sides. I end up with 2 is equal to b. Okay, so that's my solution. Oops, sorry, I made a mistake here. This should have been -2. -2. Did I put negative in this one here? Yeah, that's -2. So my mistake here, this ends up being -6. So getting my signs right here, again, make sure you're keeping track of your signs. It says I need to solve for b by adding 6 to both sides. So I end up with b is equal to +14. And when I take a look at my graph, yeah, that looks about right. That point is at 8. Okay, this point over here is at 8. So this point here at 16, yeah, that or 14, that makes sense. So now I have my whole equation. I'm going to replace that b here, and I'm going to replace that with the 14 that I solved for. So there's the equation of my line. Y equals -2x plus 14 is the equation of my line that goes to those two coordinates. It has a slope of -2 and it crosses the y-axis at +14.